Hello lads and lasses, Sanythe here, and I want to test how long it takes me to get Nebula on the SOG using my old methods on standard mode as opposed to the directed mode. Now if you want a more in-depth breakdown of how my older methods worked, I've got videos covering my method for each mastery camo on my channel. Now I'll be using the in-game timer as the primary to track how long this takes, just like I did with my video on testing directed mode. Now I'll be saves coming a good bit, so I'll be adding up all the totals of playtime from each little session and using that as the final time. For my first session, I did the usual setup, except I completely forgot to turn on the Rampage Inducer, and I also had the wrong zombie build set for my LR762, so I saved and quit so I could change the zombie build on the LR. The timing for that first little play session I had there was about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now after loading back in, I bought the LR with the right blueprint on. I finished the bug round, and then I got Deadshot, and then I turned on the Rampage Inducer finally after a bit. I stayed around the church area and got the rare wrench from the falling zombies. Then by around round 14, I got tier 2 armor, purple double pack SOG, and then spent from around 14 to 16 just training in Liberty Lanes, only leaving to triple pack, buy armor, and get my gun to legendary. Now, on round 26 is when I began my saves coming, which leaves the second session at around 23 minutes 25 seconds. From here, I loaded back in on round 26, then flipped to round 27, saved a zombie, then saved and quit, and so on. That's pretty much how saves coming works. I did this all the way up to round 30, and when I loaded back in on round 30, I just flipped to round 31, completed round 31, and just quit out the match, since past this point, manglers make it really annoying, so I just don't find it worth the extra time. I ended up having that match end with 1,677 headshots on the SOG, and I'll cover the timestamps for each camo just like I did with the directed mode towards the end of the video, and if you're curious on total time, the first match totaled out to about 51 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, getting into the second match, I remembered to turn on the Rampage Inducer. I did pretty much the same things as the last game, and I just played until I got Purple Tiger, which was around 16 minutes into the second match. Now, I needed the two special camos, which were 300 dead wire kills and 300 point blank kills. However, my dumbass thought that it was 300 hip fire kills, so it took me a bit longer to actually get that done. And I actually ended up saving and quitting just to double check, which left our first session for the second match at about 29 minutes. Now, after about 2.5 minutes after loading in, I finished up getting the point blank kills, and now I could finish on getting Mystic Gold. I ended up getting a bug round, so I saved and quit, and a little less than a minute after loading back in, I got Mystic Gold, which means I could work on Opal now. Now, although I was working on building the jet gun throughout this entire match, I primarily used the SOG just so I could get max level on them, so I could dual wield them for the Afterlife and Nebula camos. For Opal, obviously, I started saves coming around 31-ish in order to get more Mangler spawns, and I finally got Opal about 2 minutes into the third or fourth saves come after getting gold. Now, once again, this is much faster for the Opal camo as opposed to the directed mode, but so far everything else seems to be roughly the same in terms of speed, if not just some very slight differences, which I'll go more into later towards the end of the video. Now, since we're working on Afterlife after getting Opal, we're going to restart into a third game and work on these last two camos. Now, we should get Afterlife by around round 10 at the latest, and since we don't want to take damage, I'm not going to be using the Rampage Inducer at all for this, so it's going to be a little slower. Now, the whole process was pretty casual since I stayed in Liberty Lanes, and for the most part, I ended up getting it after about 15.5 minutes. Now, all we really have to do is just get to the LTG step in order to farm the elite kills, which only took about 5 minutes to get up to. My gun wasn't all that strong by this point, so it did end up taking a good bit of time to kill the first few elites, and I also got lucky with them being manglers. However, they eventually turned into abominations after a little bit of saves coming. And after all that, I did end up getting Nebula after about 4 saves come, since I got lucky with getting also additional abominations spawning in whenever I loaded back in after saving and quitting. Now, lastly, I want to go over the times for every single camo and then compare them to the directed mode. I want to clarify this isn't going to be a definitive comparison at all. Obviously, user error and min-maxing can cause speed and times to vary for all these, but these are the times I came up with using 2 guns that I started with absolutely 0 kills and zombies for. So let's go over the numbers. For all 3 games combined, they took 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 20 seconds, excluding load times, and if you're really rounding it up, it's about 25 to 30 minutes total of loading in and out of the games and saving and quitting, and pretty much any downtime I had. And that's still faster than it took me to get Nebula in a single game of directed mode, and that's purely because of the Opal camo in the directed mode. Now, if we exclude Opal on both times for like this directed mode and the standard mode that I just did, Opal took 11 minutes and 5 seconds using the standard method. That'd bring the time down to about 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 15 seconds. Whereas it took 1 hour, 13 minutes for just Opal in the directed mode. So take that away from the 3 hours and 25 minutes for that entire method, and you get 2 hours and 12 minutes. Now, I think they're pretty neck and neck, honestly, with like a 10-minute difference. And I think purely just for the reason of load times, excluding Opal camo, directed mode might just straight up be more efficient and faster. So here's what I'm going to recommend you do, as it seems like this will be the most efficient way and fastest way to get, Nebula and all that. Load into directed mode, play that until you unlock gold, then save and quit, and load into a normal match, speed run to like round 30, which with Rampage Inducer should take you around 30 minutes or even less, honestly. And use the jet gun to clear the hordes. Your main gun should be used to kill the manglers, and if you want to save scum, you can. However, just keep in mind that that'll remove your current save of directed mode, but honestly it doesn't take that long to get back to the LTG step in directed mode, so it's really not that bad. It's up to you entirely. And once you have Opal and you're ready to get Afterlife, load back into the directed mode, get back up to the LTG step or whatever you need to do. Farm the kills without taking damage to get Afterlife. This should only take about like 10 to 15 minutes at most. Probably faster if you're doing it like efficiently straight away. Then you're going to want to get to the LTG step. Honestly, you'd probably get to it at the same time as getting Afterlife. And then you're going to want to farm the Elite for Nebula. That is what I feel like is going to be the most efficient method. Do directed mode for Mystic Gold, do standard for Opal, and then do directed mode again for Afterlife and Nebula. Now, when a brand new gun releases, I'm 100% going to try to mix the two methods and see how fast I can actually get Nebula on a gun. And now, here are the numbers in case you wanted to see each camo's timestamp and all that. And keep in mind, this is only taking into account the in-game playtime. Load times are not included in this timing or anything like that. Pause if you really want to look at it, but that's all for now. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.